The problem is a lot bigger than we initially thought, and we've heard from a number of our viewers, people who are hurting from the pandemic, now literally scrambling to figure out why they are being billed by the government that they thought was helping them.
Hey, say hi.
Jenna Reeker's toddler son Jax is all that's been keeping her going.
And I feel like at this point, as a single mom, I've just been given the short end of the stick.
Back in March, the Bridgeton native was furloughed from her customer service job exactly 1 year to the day after she'd received an award for her hard work.
To be told that I wasn't working was a lot.
She applied for unemployment, was accepted, and started getting payments, money she and her son couldn't live without.
My car, taking my baby to and from doctor's appointments, and my house, my electric, water, sewer, gas, everything.
In August, the payment suddenly stopped. She assumed the benefits had just run out until just before Christmas, she received letters from the state of Missouri, overpayment determinations.
In all reality, a bill.
Telling her she had to pay the money back.
I'm at a loss. I don't even have words.
The letter stated there was an unintentional error or omission on her part, though she had no idea what.
I filled out the paperwork and I sent it in. I don't know where I erred. But if I did err, why wouldn't you contact me or call me?
Unable to get answers from the state and thinking she was entitled to the funds she'd been receiving for months, she was simply stunned.
Are you going to come and take the clothes off my child's back because that's what I used to buy with some of the money? Are you going to come back and take the dirty diapers out of the trash can? Because I had to buy diapers and wipes and I used the money for that.
Is there any realistic way for you to pay any of that back?
No. I mean, I can stop buying groceries. I don't know what else they want. I don't have anything to give back.
If the state overpays someone, that's on the state, not the individual.
We took the issue to Jenna's state senator, Democrat Brian Williams.
I was raised by a single mom, so I know how difficult it is to survive. But let alone have the state make an error and then hold the individual accountable is completely unfair.
To figure out if this was a bigger problem, News 4 Investigates requested and then analyzed raw data. According to the state, over 11,300 people were incorrectly paid from the federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Fund since the start of the pandemic. The total loss, according to the data, more than $44 million. We dug a little deeper, and of other states that reported, it appears Missouri lost more money to overpayments than Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, even New York. The Show Me state seeing the second highest losses in overpayments, only to the state of Washington.
The state has to take responsibility, and that's a good reason to not make mistakes.
Senator Williams says he wants more answers from the Missouri Department of Labor. Over a period of weeks, News 4 requested an on-camera interview with state officials. Instead, a spokesperson for the Department of Labor sent a statement saying, quote, if the individual disagrees with the DES's decision regarding an overpayment or believes it is incorrect, they may file an appeal with the division's appeals tribunal. They told us they could not comment on Jenna's case specifically.
I can't even believe that you guys were actually able to help me. I'm grateful and I'm really happy.
After our inquiries, officials called her to tell her she wouldn't have to pay back the money after all, but she still doesn't understand exactly what happened.
They obviously need to get some more employees to answer some phones and make some phone calls and explain to the people what's going on.
That $44 million we cited, that's for just one recent federal program. The state says there is no report that shows all the money lost, but from our research, it's many millions more than that, just for the past year on all the programs combined. We aren't talking about people frauding or scamming the system either. These are mistakes, errors. The state refused to do an on-camera interview, but after we pressed for more answers, said in a statement, quote, the division is obligated per federal guidance to ensure that those receiving benefit payments are entitled to those payments and to collect overpayments when we discover fraud, errors, or omissions that were made by claimants, resulting in them receiving funds to which they were not entitled. Now, just to reiterate here, some leaders say this all, though, falls on the state. It's their responsibility, so we'll keep digging for more answers. I'm Lauren Traeger, News 4 Investigates. Over the last few weeks, and especially after our story aired last night, I have heard from hundreds of people who got letters from the state of Missouri, shocked and worried. So we took their concerns straight to top leaders.
If I don't have something by the end of January, I'm on the street.
Bridget Freschetti is one of thousands now in debt to the state of Missouri.
Yeah, they said I owe $5,360.
Now they want $2,400 paid back to them. And I said, no, actually, you owe me money.
Few say they can get any answers.
You can go on for 4 hours, and all of a sudden they'll say, your call is important to us. Please try again later, and hang up on you.
I'm at a loss. I don't know what to do.
People all around the state receiving letters, some saying there was an unintentional error or omission in their unemployment benefits, and as a consequence, they have to pay back the unemployment funds. Many of them received over months, money they say they desperately needed.
You're going to come and like take the clothes off my child's back because that's what I used to buy with some of the money.
News 4 Investigates revealed data showing the state says over 11,300 people were overpaid under the federal pandemic unemployment compensation fund. The total amount, over $44 million. Federal taxpayer funds administered by the state.
The state have been able to catch these errors sooner.
Yes, they should have. And that really comes down to the resources we give the department.
State Representative Doug Clemens says outdated systems and understaffing may be to blame, but now he says the state shouldn't be asking for the money back in most cases.
Ultimately, the department does have the discretion to forgive these debts. And in these times, I really honestly feel that we need to do everything in our power to make sure that the money stays in these folks' pockets if it's no error of their own.
He says in a time of crisis, the state shouldn't be threatening to penalize people for simple mistakes.
And those penalties are very, very real, which is again why I suggest folks reach out to their elected official, because with no intervention, their paychecks will start to be garnished, their tax returns will start to be held. And we can intervene and make sure that those things don't happen.
He's drafting a letter to the governor, but in the meantime, if this is happening to you, he says,
please reach out to your elected official. That's what we're here for. We work for the people.
It is absolutely unacceptable. And I'm appalled at their behavior.
People like Bridget say they still can't even believe it.
It's disheartening. You know, I've kind of lost my faith in the system.
Missouri isn't the only state dealing with this. Many others are reporting they too incorrectly paid people. The state of Illinois reports it overpaid about $36 million from the federal pandemic unemployment compensation fund. I have heard from so many people, and you can just hear and feel their frustration and stress. We have put some additional resources for people who are in this situation on this story at KMOV.com, and you can bet we will keep following the situation. I'm Lauren Traeger, News 4 Investigates. Every day, I'm getting more and more emails and phone calls from people shocked to find out they owe the state of Missouri thousands of dollars. The messages are heartbreaking, but while so far there's been very little response from the governor and state officials, that's about to change.
To try to figure out how to pay $10,000 back right now is just like impossible.
Daphne Lindsay Thomas, just one of thousands, told she owes the state of Missouri big time. Last month, News 4 Investigates revealed at least 11,300 people had been mistakenly overpaid on federal unemployment funds to the tune of more than $44 million. But state officials have refused to do interviews or provide more information about just how widespread the problem is. And people we talked to say they thought the money was to help them make ends meet in the pandemic.
I feel I didn't do anything wrong, but what I was supposed to do.
Though fired from her job over COVID concerns, Daphne was accepted for unemployment and paid for 5 months before the state did an about-face.
I just don't believe that, why would they give it to you and then take it away?
School bus driver Jerry Littleton says when school shut down, he and his coworkers were encouraged to file for unemployment.
You guys are in the exact same boat, same employment situation.
Yes.
One of you
Yes.
has been told to pay back the money. One of you hasn't.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
Jerry completely confused by the state's actions.
No fault of yours, no omission on your part, no fraud on your part, but you need to pay this back because we made a mistake. I'm like, Okay.
This is absolutely a crisis. I would characterize it as nothing short of that. And it's a national crisis.
Michelle Evermore with the National Employment Law Project says citizens shouldn't bear the burden of states' mistakes.
They have to look for mistakes as a matter of law, but it took them so long to get around to it that people had accrued huge balances.
Federal law, she notes, allows states to waive the debt.
And so generally what that means is if the agency made a mistake or if the person made a good faith error and recouping that money would produce serious hardship, then that standard should apply.
Some people actually did try to fraud the system, and we know that. To give them a free pass when they intentionally did that is one thing.
But recently, Governor Mike Parson indicated a whole-scale waiver isn't in the cards.
If you got more money than you should have an obligation to pay it back because you're taking it away from somebody else.
Not the relief many hope to hear.
It's just heartbreaking.
Daphne says she got a letter in the mail saying she had an appeal, but the date had already passed by the time she got the letter. The state so far has not answered our repeated questions about how many of the overpayments were fraud, how many were just mistakes, and how many are the fault of the state. This whole issue is coming before a hearing in Jefferson City tomorrow afternoon. In the meantime, if you want to get in touch with your state representative or the governor about this, we've got information for you on this story at KMOV.com. I'm Lauren Traeger, News 4 Investigates. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are now expressing concern about why state government mistakenly gave out millions upon millions of your tax dollars, especially because they say regular people, many seriously struggling during the pandemic, are being told to pay back the money or it will be taken from them.
I'm fuming that y'all did something wrong.
At a hearing in Jefferson City Tuesday, lawmakers asked the head of the Department of Labor to explain what's become a major problem across the entire state. Last month, News 4 Investigates first told you at least 11,300 people had been mistakenly overpaid on federal unemployment funds to the tune of more than $44 million. Despite the fact the state has previously told News 4 they couldn't provide more data, Tuesday we learned that the actual numbers are 46,000 people impacted and $150 million mistakenly paid. Department of Labor officials have refused to interview with News 4, but Tuesday in the hearing, the director stood firm about recouping the money, even in cases of non-fraud or pure mistakes.
At the end of the day, we take this responsibility very seriously that we are entrusted with taxpayer dollars to pay out a benefit for which people have to fulfill a particular criteria.
It was the state's error. It wasn't the individual. They weren't doing it out of fraud, or they weren't trying to defraud the government. They legitimately needed the money.
Republican State Representative Jared Taylor from near Springfield says he, like News 4, has heard from many people fearful of how they would ever pay this money back. He and other lawmakers now looking to waive people's debts to the state.
It's our responsibility in government oversight to hold government accountable, no matter who's in office. I think that we expect, as taxpayers, we expect our government to work for us, and we deserve to know what happened if there was an issue and how do we address the problem going forward so this doesn't happen again.
Some other lawmakers are filing legislation to try to fix this problem. The labor director claims overpayments like this are just a normal part of the process, a small one too, even when it's not in a pandemic. But the volume is just so much bigger because of the coronavirus crisis. Certainly a lot more to come on this issue, and I'll be on top of it. I'm Lauren Traeger, News 4 Investigates.